Let's now examine the behind-the-scenes implementation of the music widget. Basically, what we have to do is represent every component of the system as an object within Design Center, whether a Vantage native or a third party, the audio interconnections between those components, and the control interconnections. Once we've completed that work, the music widget will populate. Let's take a look at an example using the file that I've been using to demonstrate the music widget. If you are an installer, you probably already use a drafting tool to represent the components of the custom designed system. If not, at a minimum, you will want to sketch the components and their interconnections for this exercise. We will add an object representing the Vantage 850 DA multi-zone amplifier. Within the Vantage objects, we select the audio-video folder, then double-click on the 850D DA audio stack object to create an instance of this device within the project. Let's go ahead and add all the relevant objects, then we'll edit the names and interconnections once they are all in the file. The object in red on our diagram was a Vantage IRX2. This is an AV controller with multiple channels of IR and RS-232 ports, among other features. This is also found within the audio-video folder of the Vantage objects. The remaining objects in blue represent our sources. All these sources are third-party devices, not native to Vantage, so we will need to import driver objects into our file to represent these objects. We navigate to drivers and seek drivers to represent these objects. The first is the Nouveau Music Port Music Server. Double-clicking brings an instance into the file. While we are in the Nouveau category, we'll also bring in an NVT2 dual tuner. Next, we have an Apple TV. Finally, we have the Apple Airport Express, enabling AirPlay from the customer or guest's iPhone or iPad. We offer no control of this device within the widget, but we need a placeholder, as we'll see in a moment. So let's add such a placeholder known as a generic device, also found within the audio-video folder of the Vantage objects. Now that we have the objects inserted within the file, let's edit their names, display names, and some of their relevant properties. We'll begin this time with the sources. The music port device names we can change to Nouveau Music Port Elite, or just Nouveau Music Port. This is for our reference. For the user's reference, we'll give it a display name of Music Server. Now notice that only one output of the music port was created with the insertion of this object. But we have 4 available and we intend to use them all, so we'll do that by adding zones representing the remaining 3. Now let's change the names for our reference and the display names for the user. The first one we'll name Dad, but notice that we're keeping the zone number in there. Second one, we'll add the name Mom. The third one, we'll do Junior. Now this, of course, is very generic. You may have particular people whose names you want to put in here. The fourth one we're going to put in as Guest. All right. With the Apple TV, in this particular case, we have more than one within the project. The other is for streaming video services. So let's designate this one as for audio for our reference. Now there will be no such need to do this for the user, so we'll just call it Apple TV in the display name. For the dual tuner, let's include the manufacturer in the name and we can drop the 1. So it's a Nouveau NVT2. Now the customer won't see this parent object, so we won't worry about the display name, but he will see tuner A and B. Now the names tuner A and B are fairly generic and might rather be assigned to a person, a location, or purpose, but we'll just go ahead and leave them as they are for our purposes. By leaving the display name blank, the name will be used instead within the widget. The generic device we'll rename AirPlay on Airport Express. A display name of AirPlay should be sufficient for the user. Now, within the object editor, we also find an input field specific to this generic device labeled user prompt. Whatever we enter in here is what will be displayed within the widget. Now let's jump to the multi-zone amplifier, the Vantage 850D DA. The object we created within the file represents a potential stack of amplifiers, as many as 8 of them, which would share certain resources, particularly including the sources. A single amplifier was created, and if we needed more zones than provided by the single amplifier, we could add amplifiers using the corresponding icon within the object editor. But we'll only be needing the one for our case. As we expand the sources, there are no associations yet to source objects within the file. We'll create these now by selecting each source according to our design. Source 1 is Dad's music server output. Now we'll want to make sure that we use the device name. Source 2 is Mom's music. And again, we'll use the device output. Source 3 is Junior's music. Use device name. Source 4 is the guess. And source 5 will be our Apple TV. We always want to use the device name. Source 6 is our generic placeholder. And 7 and 8 will be tuners A and B respectively. All right, now we're done with assigning sources. The remaining sources, 9 through 12, will not appear in the widget because no source assignments are made to them. Now let's edit the zone names. We will have an opportunity to edit the zone display names, but here I like to keep a zone number and a name for my reference. According to the drawing, the zones are master bedroom, master bath, kitchen. Well, we could go on and do the rest, but we'll leave those to your imagination. You can understand that in the interest of time. So now that we have those 3, let's go ahead and place them in the respective areas within the project hierarchy. So there's a master bath and a master bedroom. Once assigned, we'll now navigate to those areas that have these zones assigned. And there, as we select them, we can create display names for the user's reference. Here we'll just drop off the name Zone 1 and we'll say it's the master bedroom. And then in the bathroom, we have the master bath. And finally, we'll do the kitchen. And its display name of kitchen.